Namaskar. Welcome to this new session. We are dealing with the last and final Chitta Vritti, which is Smriti. We are not dealing with memory, it is Chitta Vritti. So, last time I made it clear that Smriti is one thing, Smriti is function of the mind. That Smriti is not being spoken of here. That is not being counted here. That's a function of the mind. But Smriti generates a vritti. Shruti generates a vritti of the mind and vritti of the chitta. So this is a chitta vritti, Smriti as chitta vritti and not just memory. Then towards the end of the last session, I said that many times we feel that Smriti is erratic. Smriti is spasmodic, sporadic, erratic. Bizarre Smritis are also there. Yeah, the Smriti might be bizarre. Smriti might be out of place. Smriti might be unexpected. But when there is a manifesting cause, it would appear. So, Patanjalas and even the philosophers, Indian philosophers, believe that Smriti needs manifesting cause. Otherwise, the Smritis would be remaining on the surface. And if the Smritis do not leave the surface and peripheral mind, that is a diseased condition. It is not a condition that one seeks. And it would be a tormenting condition to have all the Smritis surfacing, bubbling on the surface of the mind. It's a wonderful scheme that Smriti comes up whenever the manifesting cause surfaces or triggers it. And in the last session, we saw those 27 causes of Smritis, which told about constitution of Smriti, how the Smritis are constituted, then how the Smritis manifest. But the point we are taking up here that Smriti needs manifesting cause, and many times we feel that it is not necessary. Without manifesting cause, the Smriti appears. That is our perception, that many times the Smritis, memories surface without a manifesting cause. But it is not true from what the wiser people have told us. It is the wiser people such as Patanjali and Gautama and Vyasa have told us that memory always depends upon a manifesting cause. But our logic or our faculty of reasoning, many times gives us a feeling that Smriti's memories are erratic. Smriti is also weird. Because many times we are inconvenienced by our memories. We are tormented by our memories. So many times memory torments. We don't want something to be remembered and yet we remember. We don't think that we will remember, but we remember. And therefore we think that the memory is quite like a naughty child. It's a naughty child of our mind many times, and therefore it creates a tormentation to us. But let me tell you about how the memory has a manifesting cause. But our perceptions don't give us that realization that there is a manifesting cause. We think that it's uh, memory is kind of games. Memory has its plays and games and naughtiness in it. So we feel that a memory has surfaced without a manifesting cause. And that's why we come to believe that memories don't need manifesting cause. Because we don't create a manifesting cause, yet it comes up. You may not create, but the manifesting cause appears. So to explain this out, I will relate to you a kind of example here, illustration. Uh, it is possible that you are in a grocer's shop and you have gone to buy some grocery. And then what happens? For no reason, you think, according to you, for no reason, you suddenly get a memory of your visit to Delhi and citing India Gate or Qutub Minar, which perhaps was about 25 years back. You never returned to Delhi thereafter. It is 25 years back that you visited Delhi. You had some sightseeings and you happened to see India Gate and Qutub Minar and other locations in Delhi. And suddenly you remember today while you are in a grocer's shop, Qutub Minar. Now you think it is erratic. There is no manifesting cause in that shop. And yet the memory has surfaced. But it is possible there are so many things which might come as manifesting cause. Along with you, there may be other 8-10 people in the grocer's shop. They would be there. They are there to buy again grocery. And one of them perhaps has returned from Delhi just on previous day and still his mind is lingering in Delhi. Perhaps he is thinking of India Gate and Qutub Minar. He has just returned from Delhi previous day. So it is perfectly right that he is still having that memory, or his thought process is still around something in Delhi and something about Qutub Minar. So his mind is quite logically and quite reasonably thinking about Qutub Minar, from where he has just returned yesterday or maybe that morning even. And therefore he is thinking about it. The thought about Qutub Minar is there on his mind. So with the theory of vibrations called Spanda, that vibration reaches your mind and it hits your mind, which you cannot see. So his mind is radiating waves of Qutub Minar, and that happens to reach your mind. And therefore you have memory of Qutub Minar, which was 25 years back, and for your reason and logic, there was no condition for that memory to be surfacing. But this Spanda, or theory of vibration, Spanda Siddhanta, that person's mind is vibrating with Qutub Minar visit, which was just on the previous day. And therefore it is quite right on his part to be still dwelling in Qutub Minar memories, and therefore the mind is quite subsumed by Qutub Minar, and then it is radiating Qutub Minar memories, Qutub Minar thought. Then that radiation hits your mind and then you get memory. Now you don't identify, you don't know that that person is thinking about Qutub Minar, but the person is thinking. Or possibly, 25 years back you had gone to Delhi. It is possible that one of the persons in that shop, in the grocer shop, uh, happened to be a visitor with you, along with you. That means you had gone with some kind of a trip to Delhi conducted by some tourist office or tourist business people, and he happened to be in your tour along with you, but now you have forgotten that person after 25 years. But now there is a matching, that you are meeting that person, seeing that person after 25 years. You have not recognized him, nor has he recognized you. But because that person was 25 years back with you, visiting Qutub Minar in your group, he was in your group, and therefore there is a coincidence, and the memory can come up. Now these are quite invisible aspects. These are beyond the grasp of logic, grasp of reason, yet they are functioning, and therefore you can get a memory. So there can be such reasons why you get memory, and you, because you don't cite any reason, concrete reason behind it, which is postulated by logic, or which is supported by logic or by reason, you think it's an erratic memory, but it doesn't happen. There can be so many reasons for memory to manifest. So the manifesting cause can come in any way which you are not able to notice. And that's why the seers, philosophers, postulated that there is a manifesting cause, otherwise the memory won't surface. If the memory is surfacing, there is either there is a manifesting cause, either it is cognizable or incognizable. You are able to identify or you are not able to identify, however it has to be there. So the vibrations are eternal there. The sound vibrations are eternal. So therefore they can be coming and touching you where you will not be able to identify that this is the cause, this is the reason, that this person was with me in Delhi and therefore it happened, or this person is thinking about Qutub Minar and therefore I am getting it. You will not be able to verify this. You will not be able to ask that person, are you thinking on Qutub Minar? And you won't have the clue to ask that person whether you are thinking on Qutub Minar and therefore I got the memory. So it can happen. There are so many invisible factors in this world. Behind the movements in the world, movements of the world, happenings in the world, there are so many things which are not intelligible to human mind. But however, it's a postulation of the Shastra that this memory needs manifesting cause. And without manifesting cause, if the memory would surface, then it would be really a problem. It would be really a problem to our mind. So therefore, it has to be accepted that memory needs manifesting cause. Svavyanjakanjana karanam, in the language of Vyasa. So that is what I wanted to clarify about the memory and the postulation that it needs a manifesting cause. It comes on its own. Memories come on their own. Svavyanjakanjana. They need a manifesting cause for them to manifest on their own. They don't need any support. They don't need any agency. They come on their own. However, they need a manifesting cause. They need that trigger. So that is one thing. Now, the second thing that we have to consider here, that the smriti vritti can be either klishta or aklishta according to the scheme of Patanjali. So klishta smriti is that which will create bondage potentials, which will give rise to function of the kleshas by way of kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsaryam, that they might inflame the shadripus, and therefore they are klishta. And they reinforce the bondage, therefore they are klishta. They reinforce and add to mundanity, therefore they are klishta. So whatever adds to mundanity, whatever adds to bondage, whatever adds to inflammation of kleshas, avidya, aspita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, in the form of klesha vrittis, which are kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsaryam. Kama, lust; krodha, anger, exasperation; lobha, greed, avarice; moha, infatuation, delusion; matsarya, envy, jealousy. So those who give rise to these shadripus is called klishta. On the other hand, there are aklishta chitta vrittis. Aklishta chitta vrittis which enfeeble the klishta vrittis, which antagonize klishta vrittis, which sufficiently and successfully mitigate functioning of the klishta vrittis or role of klishta vrittis. They are aklishta vrittis then. And aklishta vrittis are the ones who give rise to viveka, vairagya, which give rise to viveka and vairagya, which give rise to jnana and vairagya, which give rise to nirodha samskars, which antagonizes vitthana samskars, suppresses vitthana samskars, and give rise to nirodha samskars, which facilitate a yogic process, adhyatmic process, paramarthik process. They are aklishta vrittis, aklishta smritis. Then the entire yoga, quintessential yoga, essential yoga, core yoga, is all founded on smriti. This is a point to be noted here. Although in asampragnat yoga all the vrittis are restrained, all yoga until asampragnat yoga is all founded, structured, raised up, facilitated, aided, assisted by smriti vritti. Because what is meditation? One of the connotations of meditation is memory, is smriti. We have to take recourse to smriti. Yogis take recourse to smriti to be in a yogic state. Smriti takes them to yogic plane of consciousness. The smriti takes them to turiyavastha. Smriti takes them to supra-conscious state. Smriti is the material. Smriti is the material for supra-conscious state, turiyavastha, samadhyavastha, yogavastha. So understand how important is this smriti vritti. Smriti vritti can be hypostatization of all wisdom that one has gained in yogic process, in a paramarthik process. So yogi takes recourse to such sublime vritti, noble vritti, ennobling vritti, cosmicalizing vritti. He takes recourse to smriti. He takes recourse to smriti vritti for launch of yogic state, launch of yoga, launch of samadhi. So that's the fundamental and foundational thing and structural material. That is the structural material for samadhi to come up. Viveka Smriti, Vairagya Smriti. So these are the foundations on which the Smriti Vritti, Samadhi is raised up. Samadhi is structured. Samadhi is constituted. That is the material. Smriti is the material of Samadhi. You just can't imagine any Samadhi process by keeping the Smriti at bay. Smriti is indispensable. So as there are 4 kinds of Sampragnat Samadhis, Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Aspita. Vitarkanugata, Vicharanugata, Anandanugata, Aspitanugata. All these at their core or at the foundation of them have Smriti. You can't have Samadhi on Pramana Vritti. The Pramana must be filtered to Smriti. And then you will have Samadhi on Smriti Vritti. Even if you are having the meditation on symbols or some marks, it is evoking the memory of that symbol, and then you meditate on that symbol. So see how Smriti is so vital in the process of yoga. So lower Smriti has to be restrained for higher Smriti. Aklishta Smriti should be restrained by Aklishta Smriti. Then that Aklishta Smriti should be restrained by superior Aklishta Smriti. Then that Smriti should be restrained by furthermore superior Aklishta Smriti. So the superior will be restraining the inferior. Once you are having the structure of Aklishta Vritti there too, then there are so many levels. The lower level Aklishta will be restrained and a higher level Aklishta will be manifesting, or that is restraining the lower Vritti. So every time higher Aklishta Vritti will come and restrain the lower Aklishta Vritti, and finally in Asampragnat Samadhi that final Aklishta Vritti too is restrained, and that is called Asampragnat Samadhi. The Smriti plays such a vital role. So try to understand the importance of Smriti Vritti in knowledge process, the contribution of Smriti Vritti for business activity of life, how important it is, that we have already seen. We have considered this, that it facilitates our business activity of life, practicality of life. Without memory, we would have lots of problems. It won't be smooth mundane life, worldly life, or practical life. So from that practicality of life, try to understand how Smriti is contributing. It facilitates your business activity of life. Then it contributes so vitally for your knowledge to grow. You can't have a knowledge process with memory very, 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 very poor. Memory is a very important constituent for knowledge to be constituted and for you to become knowledgeable. A knowledgeable person will not be having a poor memory. Or with a poor memory, nobody can become knowledgeable. So try to understand this memory as a component in knowledge structure. Memory as a component for structure of mundanity of life, practicality of life, business activity of life, prapancha. how memory is important for prapancha, how memory is important for jnana, how memory is important for paramartha. And as if you recall, last time I told you something about Dhruva Smriti. Patanjali also speaks about Dharma Megha Samadhi, where there is downpour of that memory. Memory of what? Viveka Khyati or Aviplava Viveka Khyati as the means of Kaivalya. What is Viveka Khyati? Viveka Khyati is a memory. It will be Smruti. It will be Smruti Vritti, and that Smruti Vritti will be uninterrupted, which becomes means of Kaivalya. That's why Upanishads mention Dhruva Smriti. Dhruva means steady, not wavering, not appearing, disappearing. Like it happens to our memory. Memory appears, memory disappears. But in case of that Dhruva Smriti or Aviplava Viveka Khyati, there is constant flow of that Smriti with regards to Viveka Khyati. So that means that it is a very vital component for emancipation, freedom, kaivalya, moksha, nirvana. So why Patanjali has counted memory, rather this Smriti, as a chitta vritti, understand? Because a memory of chitta, in the chitta, will be at unfathomable depth. The mental or what you call as psychological memory, mnemonic memory, is way of the peripheral substance of consciousness. But chitta vritti means, as I have often said, it is ocean. And it is bottom of the ocean. And from bottom of the ocean, the samskars, nirodha samskars. What are nirodha samskars, which are a direct cause of samadhi? They are nothing but they are smriti. Nirodha samskars are smriti. Vitthana samskars too are smriti. So try to understand the smriti, its quality, as constituent of vitthana samskars, and on the other hand constituents of nirodha samskars. So when we go further to understand the saprajnata, samprajnat samadhi, dharmamegha samadhis, which Patanjali has mentioned, we will know how smriti is playing a role. Dhyana, for instance, is a complete limb based on smriti. Dhyana is nothing but smriti. It is a sublime smriti, cosmic smriti, sublimating smriti, and that must occupy the chitta. So smriti has to occupy chitta for dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So we'll have to understand this smriti vritti from all these various dimensions. So here it is more relevant to understand that there are klishta vrittis, aklishta vrittis. Then the smriti from chitta means smriti from manas, buddhi, ahankar. This was touched upon by me in an earlier session. Because this is chitta vritti. Chitta vritti means constitution or combination or unison of manovritti, buddhi vritti, ahankara vritti. So see how, what will be the facet of smriti from ahankara? What would be the fabric of smriti from manas, and what would be the fabric of smriti from buddhi? So chitta vritti, smriti is totally a different vritti than merely memory. And as I just now said, today I said in the earlier part of the session that memory is not a chitta vritti. Memory is a function of the mind. But memory gives rise to a state of mind. That is being spoken of here. Then find out how far Smriti Vritti can be taking us. The culmination of yoga is by purified Smriti, what Patanjali calls as Smriti Parishuddhi. So, that is the whole realm of Smriti Vritti in Patanjali's Chitta Vritti Vijnana. So, I tried to put it across to you during these couple of sessions which were dedicated to Smriti Vritti. So all the vrittis will come in the form of smriti for support for samadhi, support for yoga. And finally that too will be restrained. When it comes to the level of viveka khyati, until the viveka khyati is churned out, those vrittis will be, one vritti will be replacing another vritti, superior will be replacing inferior vritti. And the superior most vritti, chitta vritti, is viveka khyati vritti. And viveka khyati also finally will be restrained. So last smriti vritti of the nature of viveka khyati is restrained for asampragnata samadhi. So let's try to understand the smriti vritti in entire spectrum of it. It is really fascinating. Anyway, with that, we come to the end of the entire topic of chitta vrittis, panchataya chitta vrittis, klishta chitta vrittis. And then it was proposed, it was mentioned that these chitta vrittis need to be restrained for yoga. And now, therefore, it becomes imperative that we start understanding the restraint of these chitta vrittis, which is so vital for a yogi, not for you and me. Because we have to only restrain ignoble vrittis, we have to restrain the klishta vrittis, we have to restrain the vrittis which are reinforcing mundanity in us, materiality in us. So we have to restrain those vrittis. That is done by satsanga, sadhana sangha, shastra sangha. So they will work on doing all that sorting out of vrittis. So see how we have to understand chitta vritti at our hierarchies, that we have to embrace and adhere to satsanga, shastra sangha, sadhana sangha, which is the process of purifying the memory. That's the first filtration of memory. So, with that we are ending this topic on chitta vrittis, and now we are going to the next part of the text, which deals with the restraint technology or restraint culture, restraint process of all these chitta vrittis. And this will start first by restraining ignoble vrittis, restraining klishta vrittis, restraining kama krodhadi vrittis, and then that is restrained by embracing higher vrittis, sublime vrittis, cosmic vrittis, paramarthik vrittis, spiritual vrittis. And then we will be scaling up. The yogi scales up from there onwards to various planes of samadhi, vitarkanugata, vicharanugata, anandanugata, aspitanugata, and then asampragnayata. Anyway, the next topic that is going to come up is about the means of restraining chitta vrittis. That means means to culture the chitta vrittis, means to sublimate the chitta vrittis, the means to ennoble the chitta vrittis, which is our yoga. We are not going to go for straight away samadhi yoga. We are not going to go to restraint of chitta vrittis. We will have to go for reforming our chaitik material. So those are the means which we have to adhere to. So that is for next time. So with this we are ending Smriti Vritti, we are ending Panchatayya Vrittis, we are ending delineation on Klishta Klishta Vrittis. So namaskar all of you.